All right. Hello again, adventurers, and welcome to another exciting episode of D&D Deep Dive, the show where we dive deep into classes, subclasses, and other features of 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons to help you get the most out of your choices. So, today we are going to be continuing along the path of the Red Mage by looking at the Slinger archetype. Now, you may be wondering, what in the world is a Red Mage? I remember that from the PHP. Well, it's because I'm doing an entire series on the classes from the 5th edition D&D Cross Final Fantasy XIV Classes and Races Compendium. There's a link in the description that will lead you to the Reddit where you can download the most updated version along with, I believe, previous versions as well if you don't like a change that happens to it. And you can talk with other people that are interested in it. You can talk to the person that actually creates it, and it's a fun place to go. I've had a lot of fun interacting with everyone that are there. As a quick reminder, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon and turn notifications on if you enjoy what I am doing here. All of those things help tell YouTube to let other people see this, so they are really, really important. Please do that. As I mentioned before, we're going through the Red Mage, and we've already done the base class and one of the subclasses, so there are two more subclasses. We're going to cover the Spellslinger in this one, and the next one will be the Battle Rose. Quick refresher on 5th edition class design. Every class in 5th edition is designed to play very, very differently right from the beginning. In order to do that, they have these things that are called defining features. They are either abilities that are unique to the class or abilities that the class gets earlier or can use in a different way than any other class. In order for something to be considered a defining feature, it has to show up in the first two levels. So what are the defining features of the Red Mage? Well, there are two, both of which they get right at level 1 because they choose their combat style, which is their subclass, at level 2. The first one is called Flare Points. This is their limited resource. I believe the vast majority of the Final Fantasy XIV classes in this compendium have some sort of limited resource. Flare points are what the Red Mage has. They are a little bit heavy loaded from the beginning, where you start with one flare point, and by level 4 you have 4 flare points, and you don't get another one until level 10. But basically you use them to use the other defining ability of this class and the other things that are built into these subclasses. So what is the other defining feature? Well, that's called Dual Cast. Dual Cast is when you cast a spell, it has a casting time of 1 action. You can spend 1 flare point to change the casting time to 1 bonus action for this casting. You may not do so with a spell greater than 4th level. So this allows them to effectively cast 2 spells in a single turn. Somewhat similar to Quicken Spell from the Sorcerer, but with some limitations in the idea that you can't dual cast a spell greater than 4th level. And as the class goes on, they get different ways that they can deal with casting those spells. So the Red Mage itself is built around this idea of being able to bonus cast spells so that you can use your action either to attack, because it does get extra to attack, or to cast an additional spell. Kind of combining things that normally wouldn't be able to be done in a single turn is what the Red Mage excels at. So what does the Spellslinger add to that combination? Well, let me tell you. For the Spellslinger, at 2nd level, you get what's called Manafication. At second level, as a bonus action, you may spend a number of flare points equal to twice the level of a spell you wish to cast in place of using a spell slot. So, first things first, this is a little bit of a poorly written because it doesn't really mention in there how you cast the spell. It just says, as a bonus action, you may spend a number of flare points equal to twice the level of the spell you wish to cast in place of using a spell slot. But it doesn't say how you cast that spell. I could very easily see someone arguing, well, because the only thing mentioned in there is a bonus action, this lets you effectively cast any spell as a bonus action, as long as you use flare points instead of your spell slot. Which would be a massively overpowered ability, especially for a second level ability. However, what I think it's meant to be is if you cast a spell with your action, as a bonus action, you can use flare points instead of a spell slot. So you effectively have to use both your action and your bonus action to substitute flare points for your spell casting. Which can be really useful, but the fact that it takes both your action and your bonus action does make it a remarkably limited ability for a second level ability. That really does kind of define the Spell Slinger subtype. Is they are generally supposed to be casting more spells than other classes or other subclasses. So yeah, it needs to be reworded to more define exactly how this is supposed to work. If it's supposed to work the way I described, where you just use your bonus action to replace the spell slot for flare points, then it needs to start out as when you cast a spell, you may use your bonus action to spend a number of flare points equal to twice the level of the spell you are casting in place of using a spell slot. That would define everything and make it very clear as to how it's supposed to work. If this is meant to be something that allows you to cast any spell you want, or even just spells up to fourth level, using flare points instead of spell slots, that needs to be mentioned in there as well. As a bonus action, you may spend, so it should say something to the effect of, as a bonus action, you may spend a number of flare points equal to twice the level of a spell you wish to cast that spell. There has to be, because right now it has an if, but it has no then. If you're familiar with programming languages, there are these things called if-then statements, where you literally type into your code, if this thing happens, then this thing happens. And if you start getting into more advanced programming, you can have nested if-then statements where it goes, if this, then if this, then if this, and you just keep going. But in order for that code to actually work, every if statement, even then if statements, have to have a then statement that closes the loop. And Manafication is an if statement that has no then. It is an open loop, which when you go to compile this class, to stay on that programming lingo, will cause the compiler to fail. So there needs to be a then statement. There needs to be some sort of result from using your bonus action. Right now, there isn't. As far as balancing goes, I think having to use your action and your bonus action to cast a single spell is really underpowered. Being able to cast any spell as a bonus action by simply spending flare points is incredibly overpowered. So I think both ways that this could be interpreted are not really going to be that useful. However, if you were to limit the bonus actions, like if you were to make Manafication only work on a spell that you cast as a bonus action, that would let it interact with dual cast. Keep everything else the same, but it lets it interact with dual cast. It allows you to limit it to only fourth level spells unless they are bonus actions. So really, with Manafication, my suggestion would be when you cast a spell as a bonus action, which applies to spells that are dual casted and to spells that are normally bonus casted spells, you may spend a number of flare points equal to twice the level of the spell you wish to cast in place of using a spell slot. I think that would add the most versatility to Manafication, because now it's not using your bonus action, which means it's completely incompatible with a defining feature of the base class. It does allow you to use it without having to use dual cast, because there's still a fair number of bonus action spells that are available to the red mage without dual cast. And then as we look at some of the abilities further on, it actually does make sense to be able to do that. So yeah, that's Manafication. At 6th level, you get Charmed, I'm sure. You may spend a flare point to gain advantage on a charisma ability check. This is very similar to Heroic Charm from the Sword Dancer. The big difference being Heroic Charm allowed you to re-roll it. Charmed, I'm sure, allows you to gain advantage on it, which, if you're comparing re-rolling a die compared to getting advantage on the die, technically getting advantage is always more useful, because if you re-roll the die, because you are re-rolling it, you are erasing the previous roll, and you are making a new roll, meaning you have to use that new roll. Whereas advantage, you get to roll both of them. So if the second one is lower, you're going to be able to use the higher roll from the first one, and if the second one is higher, you get to use the higher one. That's the good part of advantage. Now, the limitation to the idea of advantage is you can't get double or triple advantage. So if you would already have advantage on the charisma ability to check, this ability or this feature is completely useless to you, because you can't get extra advantage on anything. So overall, both Heroic Charm and Charmed, I'm sure, neither is superior to the other. They're both useful in different situations, which I like. Again, if you're balancing subclasses, you never want to have one subclass that has basically the same or a similar ability, just a better version of it, because then you're effectively punishing the other subclass. Because it's like, well, yeah, you get this, but I get this, and my version's a lot better. This is a really, really nice kind of happy medium of, it's a similar ability, but it's different enough that you could have a Sword Dancer and a Spell Slinger in the same party, and they wouldn't, they could both be level 6, and they wouldn't feel like they had the same ability there. They're going to be very different situations where both of those abilities are useful. So, yeah. At 10th level, you get Quicksilver Casting. If you deal damage to a target with a cantrip, you may spend 1 flare point to gain advantage on a ranged spell attack against the target, or cause the target to make dexterity saving throws against your spells with disadvantage until the end of your turn. So Quicksilver Casting really kind of changes things as far as how the Spell Slinger acts. Up until that point, you will be kind of trading between making attacks and using the attack action and casting spells for most of your turns. Once you get Quicksilver Casting, it is in your best interest to always cast a cantrip first and then cast a leveled spell, because your leveled spell is either going to hit better simply because you get advantage on the attack roll, or they're going to have a much harder time saving from it as long as it's a dexterity based saving throw, which is really, really useful. And again, it massively changes the spell slinger specifically to where they're very rarely, if ever, using the attack action. And now they're going to almost always be casting, particularly they're going to be using dual casting a lot more, because in general, damaging cantrips take your action, and there are very few, if any, bonus action spells that actually do damage. Most bonus action spells are either going to heal with things like Healing Word, or they're going to augment you in some way, like giving you a higher AC, or adding, like the Smite spells, adding an effect the next time you hit with an attack. So Quicksilver Casting does almost require using the dual cast, meaning with a combination of Manafication and Quicksilver Casting, the Spell Slinger is going to be going through flare points faster than any other subclass, because they're constantly going to be using them. Now, flare points do get back on either a short or a long rest, so it is not as troubling as it could be. But compared to some of the other subclass features where you're not just burning through copious amounts of flare points, the Spell Slinger is going to have to very carefully choose which spells they dual cast, how many times they use Quicksilver Casting. All of those things are going to be very, very important. Finally, at 14th level, you get Liquification. As a bonus action, you may spend a spell slot of any level to gain a number of flare points equal to twice the spell slot level. You may not gain flare points over your maximum number of points. So, I've been going back and forth with Liquification for a bit. On one hand, this is literally a different version of sorcery points, like you would get from a sorcerer. When sorcerers get sorcery points at second level, they can convert sorcery points into spell slots and spell slots into sorcery points. So they can effectively use sorcery points to kind of shift their spell slots effectively. Basically, they can trade higher level spell slots for multiple lower level ones, or trade multiple lower level spell slots for higher level spell slots. Now, it's not quite as expensive as Manafication, Liquification, where Manafication you have to use twice as many flare points as you do spell slots. So if you compare it to sorcery points, first of all, sorcerers have as many sorcery points as they have levels of sorcerer. So a level 10 sorcerer has 10 sorcery points. A level 20 sorcerer has 20 sorcery points. Second, their spell slots don't go strictly on a 2-to-1 basis. It costs 2 spell slots to make a first level spell, or it costs 2 sorcery points to make a first level spell slot, 3 sorcery points to make a second, 5 to make a third, 6 to make a fourth, and 7 to make a fifth. For Manafication, maximum spell slot you could cast using Manafication would be a 5th level slot, and that would take all 10 of your sorcery points, which you don't get 10 sorcery points until 20th level. So up until 20th level, you cannot cast anything higher than an 8th level spell slot. Or not an 8th level, a 4th level spell slot using Manafication. Okay, that kind of works. But if you're looking at liquefaction as only interacting with Manafication, it works fine because it effectively means Manafication and liquefaction kind of cancel each other out. You can liquefy a spell slot and then manify it for effectively the same amount. However, when you combine it with Quicksilver Casting and Dual Cast, liquefaction becomes kind of overpowered because a single 5th level spell slot can turn into multiple combats of Quicksilver and Dual Cast, to the point of, unless you are using Manafication a lot, which really isn't going to benefit you that much, you're effectively going to be Quicksilver Casting every single round as soon as you get, or yeah, every single time you use something, you're going to be Quicksilver Casting and Dual Casting, except for the one turn where you bonus action to get all of your flare points back. So when you look at it that way, liquefaction effectively turns your limited resource flare points into an unlimited resource, because combined with getting them back on a short rest and being a full caster, you are never going to run out of flare points for dual casting and Quicksilver casting, which is going to give you a significantly better benefit than Manafication is going to give you ever. So when you consider that, liquefaction needs to be changed in some way. And to be perfectly honest, Manafication doesn't do that much either, because Manafication, because of how expensive higher level spells get, by the time you get access to 3rd level spells at level 5, you can't actually Manaficate them. At level 5, when you get access to 3rd level spells, if you use Manafication, you can cast 1 2nd level spell. And that is true all the way until level 12, where you can use Manafication to cast 1 3rd level spell per short rest. Manafication is effectively a one and done ability until you get liquefaction, and then you're basically alternating bonus actions on every other turn of Manafication, liquefaction, Manafication, liquefaction, which really isn't doing you any good because you're basically just taking twice as long to cast the same spells. Yeah. As far as how to fix liquefaction, it's difficult. Let's go to final thoughts. Overall, I like the idea of the Spell Slinger, and Quicksilver Casting works really well. Manafication could work well, because like I said, if you make the changes I recommended, you can use it with dual cast, but again, that means at 2nd level you can't really use it. At 3rd level, you can use it once per short rest. It's so expensive, and that's for a 1st level spell, which are not that valuable. Yeah, with Manafication and Liquification, I don't see them being that useful compared to Quicksilver Casting, which is incredibly useful. What I think would be better is scrap Manafication completely to come up with something else that benefits spellcasting. And then Liquification, again, is too powerful the way it is. So turning Liquification into, you can gain a number of flare points equal to the level of the spell you sacrifice, makes it much more balanced, and means that it's not, you're still going to have a choice of whether you want to Quicksilver cast, dual cast, or do other things with your flare points, so it's not going to be quite as broken. But Manafication needs to be something different that gives an incentive to casting spells. If we look at how Quicksilver Casting works, where it gives you advantage on a ranged attack roll or disadvantage against a spell you're casting, and we go to Manafication and go, okay, well, what's a way we could use flare points to do something that, again, encourages spell casting as opposed to simply allowing you to trade flare points for spell slots in a really kind of weird way. I don't have a good idea right now. Again, I've been thinking this over for a while. I don't have a good idea for how to change it, but that's something you would want to do with Manafication. Or switch Quicksilver Casting to your second level ability, and then turn Manafication into the 10th level ability. Because then at least it would make more sense. Again, Quicksilver Casting works a lot better with dual cast, and then still changing Manafication to something else. But as it is right now, this Spell Slinger, like I said, Charmed, I'm sure, is really useful. Quicksilver Casting is really useful. Liquification is kind of broken when you combine it with Quicksilver and dual cast. And Manafication you are never going to use once you get Quicksilver Casting, because it's just, and even before you get that, it's just not beneficial enough to justify it being a one and done ability, despite the fact that it's not pitched as a one and done ability because of the limitations to your flare points. It is, but plain and simple. So yeah, overall, like I said, Spellslinger is an interesting idea, but Manafication needs to be changed to something else, and Liquification needs to be nerfed. If you do that, it could be a really fun class. And even without that, Quicksilver Casting is super fun, super awesome, allows you to play the class very, very differently, which is why I think it should be the second level ability, not the 10th. Because again, you're already limited pretty well with your limited number of flare points, so you can't just go ham wild on Quicksilver Casting at second level. You only have 2 flare points at just the second level. So yeah. Otherwise, that is going to be all for me today. As always, if you enjoyed this, like I said before, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and turn notifications on. All those are really important. In the comments down below, give me your pitch for how to change Manafication. Again, we want something that's going to somehow encourage spellcasting without being without effectively allowing them to cast more spells than they should, because that would overpower the class, and also without using so many flare points that it becomes untenable, because you can never cast a spell high enough that it's actually worth using the flare points instead of dual casting and Quicksilver casting. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Otherwise, again, that is all for me today, and I will see you guys next time. All right? Bye-bye.